G'day chemistry students. In this video, we're going to be looking at dot point 8.3.1. It's our final video for the module and the course. I'm going to be talking about some general concepts around chemical synthesis and design. Let's get into it. So when we're designing a chemical process, especially when thinking about an industrial process being used to manufacture chemicals, there are a lot of factors that we should be taking into consideration. First off, we need to be thinking about the kind of substances that we're working with and that we're producing. So considerations may be the purity of the substance that we're starting with, because an impure substance will mean that we don't end up producing a pure product at the end, or certainly not the desired product. Need to be considering the cost of the reagent. Is there something that we can be using that's just as effective but possibly cheaper? We need to be thinking about the availability of those reagents, and that's usually quite closely tied to the cost. Also need to be thinking about safety. The safer that we can make a process, the better for all people involved. And environmental considerations are extremely important when designing the manufacturing process and also considering the product that we make at the end that might be used. We need to be considering what contaminants may be present, how that might affect ecosystems both locally and across the globe, as well as steps that can be taken to minimize those negative impacts. A lot of the time, those 5 considerations can be managed quite effectively through effective reagent selection. When designing a chemical process, especially in an industrial setting, we really need to be thinking closely about the reaction conditions and the design of the synthesis process itself. These kind of considerations will ensure that you can maximize the amount of product made, but you may also be limited by your access to technology, resources, and energy. With unlimited access to these kind of things, we can be ensuring the best reaction conditions, allowing for the best design for a synthesis process and maximizing a high quality product. But if we don't have access to all of those things, then we need to be considering, with the technology, resources, and energy at your disposal, what can be done to design the best process possible. Cost then also inevitably becomes a factor, especially when we're talking about access to all of those things, and as well, not just safety when looking at reagents themselves, but safety of the process itself is really important to consider. Something that we'll be reflecting on in particular is the impact of chemical industries on the greater world itself and the impact that chemical industry and the synthesis of chemicals have on the environment, but as well the social and economic advantages and disadvantages, and also consider how the purity and quality of a product can be befitting of its particular application or use in society. And that brings us to the end of Module 8 and the entire HSC course. Thank you for your participation and engagement in this course. I hope that this course has enabled you to understand chemistry, its basic principles, and how it applies to the big world. I hope as well that you've been able to develop some skills that go beyond just the context of chemistry that can be applied to all sorts of scenarios. And yeah, thank you so much for weathering the HSC course with me, and all the best for your exams to come.